The emergency room doors slammed open as the stretcher rolled inside, and every second felt like it was slipping away forever. Blood stained the elegant red dress of a powerful CEO who had always seemed untouchable, while beside her ran a single father whose hands trembled from fear rather than exhaustion. Doctors shouted for space, nurses rushed with equipment, and bright hospital lights reflected in his tear-filled eyes. Then, just before she lost consciousness, the woman reached for the admission clipboard with her shaking hand. Instead of writing the name of a family member or wealthy relative, she slowly wrote only one name, his. In that unforgettable moment, every person in the emergency room froze, unable to understand why one of the city's richest women had trusted an ordinary single dad with the most important decision of her life. Before we discover why she made that heartbreaking choice, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes kindness can change lives, and subscribe to Humanity Tales if you believe in second chances, compassion, and the quiet heroes who never ask for recognition. Daniel Brooks had spent the last 7 years raising his 8-year-old daughter Emma alone after losing his wife to a sudden illness. Every morning began before sunrise as he packed lunches, braided Emma's hair as best he could, walked her to school, and then rushed across town to work as the personal driver for Eleanor Hayes, the brilliant but demanding CEO of one of the largest technology companies in the state. Eleanor was respected for her intelligence and feared for her impossible standards. Employees admired her success but rarely saw her smile. Daniel never complained, even when late-night meetings kept him away from home, because every paycheck meant another month of security for Emma. He believed dignity came from showing up every day, no matter how difficult life became. Unknown to almost everyone, Eleanor had been fighting a serious heart condition for months. She ignored the warnings from doctors because she believed the company depended entirely on her. She skipped appointments, cancelled surgeries, and buried herself in work until one rainy evening, after leaving an important charity gala, everything changed. Daniel noticed that she had become unusually quiet in the back seat. Her breathing grew heavier, and her face lost all color. Seconds later she collapsed across the seat, clutching her chest. Instead of waiting for an ambulance in traffic, Daniel made a split-second decision. He drove through pouring rain with remarkable control, called emergency services while driving, and reached the hospital minutes before paramedics could have arrived. His only thought was saving a human life, not saving his job. As doctors prepared emergency treatment, hospital staff asked Eleanor if there was a family member to authorize life-saving procedures if she became unconscious. Her vision blurred, but she recognized Daniel standing nearby, soaked from the rain, refusing to leave her side. With almost no strength left, she wrote Daniel Brooks on the consent form before her hand slipped away. Moments later she lost consciousness completely. The hospital administrator questioned the decision. Why would a billionaire trust her driver with such enormous responsibility? Daniel himself tried to refuse. He insisted there had to be someone more appropriate. Yet the medical team explained that Eleanor had clearly expressed her wishes while fully conscious. With tears in his eyes, Daniel signed the forms that gave surgeons permission to operate, praying he was making the right choice. For the next several hours, he sat alone in the waiting room, still wearing his rain-soaked jacket, silently hoping that the woman who had always seemed so strong would survive. Meanwhile, Emma waited at a neighbor's house, unaware that her father had spent the night fighting for someone else's life. Daniel finally called her close to midnight, apologizing for not being there to tuck her into bed. Emma simply told him that helping people was what her mother would have wanted him to do. Those simple words gave him strength during the longest night of his life. The surgery was successful, but Eleanor remained in intensive care for several days. During that time, Daniel quietly returned to work whenever possible, visited the hospital after his shifts, and made sure Emma never felt forgotten. He expected nothing in return. To him, kindness was never a transaction. It was simply the right thing to do. When Eleanor finally woke up, the first question she asked was whether Daniel had gone home to his daughter. Nurses smiled, surprised that her first concern was not about her company or her wealth. She requested every document related to the emergency and confirmed that she had intentionally written Daniel's name. Her decision had not been made in confusion. It had been made from years of careful observation. Over the years, Eleanor had watched Daniel return lost wallets without opening them, stay late to help elderly coworkers reach their cars during storms, quietly pay for meals when junior employees couldn't afford lunch, and rush home every evening with groceries balanced in one hand and school projects in the other. She had seen a man carrying grief without bitterness and responsibility without complaint. While many executives surrounded her because of her fortune, Daniel had always treated her as another human being deserving of respect. She realized that in the most frightening moment of her life, the person she trusted most was not the wealthiest or most powerful person she knew. It was the single father who had proven his character every single day. Weeks later, after recovering enough to return to the office, Eleanor called a company-wide meeting. Employees expected another quarterly business announcement. Instead, she stood before hundreds of workers and told them the story of the night Daniel had saved her life. She admitted that success had made her believe strength meant never depending on others. But lying on that hospital stretcher had taught her that real strength comes from trusting people whose hearts have already shown who they are. She announced sweeping changes throughout the company. Every employee would receive expanded family leave, emergency childcare support, and better health benefits. She created a scholarship fund for children of single parents employed by the company, naming it after Daniel and Emma Brooks. Then, in front of everyone, she promoted Daniel to Director of Employee Care and Community Outreach, explaining that no business could truly succeed unless kindness became part of its foundation. Daniel accepted the new role with quiet humility, but the greatest reward wasn't the promotion or the salary increase. It was watching Emma smile proudly from the front row during the ceremony. For the first time since losing her mother, she saw her father recognized not for how hard he worked, but for the goodness he carried inside. Months later, Eleanor often visited Daniel and Emma for simple Sunday dinners. There were no expensive restaurants or formal meetings, just homemade meals, laughter, and conversations that reminded everyone that family is sometimes created through compassion rather than blood. The billionaire who once measured life by profits now measured it by moments shared with people who genuinely cared. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a meaningful comment, and subscribe to Beyond Compassion so together we can spread more stories that remind the world kindness is never wasted. Special request: before the story ends, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Daniel's place that night? The hospital form eventually became more than a legal document. It became a symbol of trust earned through countless quiet acts of kindness that no one thought were being noticed. Daniel never imagined that years of honesty, sacrifice, and unconditional compassion would one day save not only another person's life but also transform his own. And perhaps that is life's greatest truth: the smallest acts of goodness often become the biggest miracles when someone needs them most. In a world that often celebrates power and wealth, may we never forget that the strongest hearts are usually found in ordinary people who choose kindness even when no one is watching.